And just like that, we're live. Hello, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome everyone. Welcome Rogue News fans, Rogue 420, also the Cannabis Sessions, as well as Harvest and Plume. This is Carlos, aka CJ, and very excited today to be delivering another Speaking Bluntly podcast. And your co-host for today is, as always, is Kim McCarthy. So,
Always.
Kim,
It's still
happy
me.
Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you. Congratulations on your son's athletic performance. I love wrestling, and it's just exciting to see young kids being able to. One of the reasons I like about wrestling is because you're strategizing. You're constantly
Mm-hmm.
strategizing and on the move like that. You're literally using your own body, and how do you leverage that over another person? And um, so I'm so excited. I love watching his progress in that. So
Yeah, it's nerve wracking a little bit, obviously with the component of that, and but you're right. It's a great sport. I never had the opportunity to compete in wrestling growing up, but it's neat that it's affording him that opportunity to do that. So, but yeah, so lots of things have happened since last week. You released the February edition of Harvest and Plume magazine, as well as the Cannabis Sessions magazine. So you've been very busy.
poof, very busy. Hey, what'd you think?
Loved it. Loved it. Absolutely. I loved it. As a matter of fact, do you want to start there? Because you have a lot going on. You released the two magazines in February. You also have a big event this weekend that sounds very exciting. And I thought we should start there and share with our listeners about what you have going on this weekend in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So starting off at the 13th, yesterday. Yesterday is the start of the USA CBD Expo, and it's from the 13th until the 15th. And just, I have so much going on. It made sense for me to come on the last day. Excuse me. So I still get to go to the expo, but really what I'm excited about are demo days. So after that, there's an event for entrepreneurs who are presenting their pitches. So it's a demo day. The investors are there. After that, then it's a big celebrity cannabis culinary event at the
Mm-hmm.
Tyson Mansion. And yeah, so I here's the truth. I didn't even get a hotel room.
Oh, really?
Why? The event is over at 1 in the morning, so I just got a super early flight, and I'm just gonna go college on it.
Yeah, so obviously let's jump through this a little bit. Yeah, so right now in Vegas, and I was supposed to attend, it just didn't work out. All these events always come together so fast. So we have the USA CBD Expo that's taking place at the Vegas Convention Center, and I know that's going to draw a pretty international crowd to go check out that event. And this is following from MJ BizCon several months ago, and it sounds like a very exciting event. Lots of activities are going to be taking place, and they have other events scheduled throughout the country. And what I'm excited about is that relatively to get it into the expo is a pretty cheap admission for $20 for a 2-day ticket. Then obviously, if you're an industry professional and all that, and then they're going to pay that back up with special events. And I'm going to bring that up as well because shoot, I think that's pretty darn exciting is the Chef Matt and the cannabis sessions that you're going to be doing this cannabis CBD demo day as well as a culinary food experience. So what does that entail?
I'm really excited about this because, excuse me, um, it's it was through my network that this the organizer of the event, Brad Turner, he and I spoke, and we were talking about marketing opportunities and partnering, collaborating between us. And he said, here's the event you really need to be at, and here's why. And at one of his events, he brought together Steve D'Angelo and Jim Belushi. And of course, Steve D'Angelo and Jim have since partnered up. And um, Steve D'Angelo, he's involved. What is he not involved in,
I
really?
know, right? He's everywhere.
The Last Prisoner Project, ArcView, of course, Harborside, his brand, and then partnering with Jim Belushi and lots of other things. Um, so that's where the conversation started. And then that broke down into Well, why don't I tell you about some of these other events that have happened globally, and who have shown and the impact in terms of networking.
Mm-hmm.
And that took about 30 seconds. And I
Okay.
said, I'm in.
Nice.
So, yeah, the celebrity culinary event, there's still opportunities. Anyone who wants to sponsor, get their stuff in the swag bag, or if you wanted to have a table, a little pop-up banner,
Mm-hmm.
or show up and you visit all of those, you network with all of those tables and banners and whatnot. But of course, there are also the easy access to the celebrities and celebrity brands, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And then I brought up the actually Everbright event, for anyone that's going to be in Vegas, happens to be in Vegas this particular weekend to share in that experience. So let me bring that up as well. Having a little bit of share screen issues. There we go. There we go. Brought up. So again, Chef Matt is going to be, and this is coming up, and different ways of participating, and I'm sure the different food that he's going to be putting together is going to be pretty darn stellar.
I'm looking forward to it. I I honestly really, yeah, I have levels of expectation, but how can you have a level of expectation when you have someone who does this for a living? You
Mm-hmm.
know, to where this is the kind of guy I want to come into my pantry and fridge, because I look at it and say, what the hell? And he can come in and say 7 course meal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can make out of whatever menu items he brings in.
Yeah, and again, I think it's going to be at a pretty exclusive place. It sounds like the venue for it's going to be pretty darn awesome as well.
I know. And, you know, I this is such a girl thing, but it, in Colorado, we've been having quite a few snowstorms. I mean, it's boiling today at like 34 degrees.
Oh
It has
wow.
been really cold, and we've gotten a lot of snow. And if you know Vegas, anytime the sun is out, it's either warm and pleasant or it's boiling on the sun. There's really no cold time during the day.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I'm coming from about a foot of snow or more into flip flop weather. And then the desert doesn't hold any heat. So in the evening, it's freezing. I mean, everything freezes. So I'm honestly having a trouble time. I'm not sleeping there. So I have to be very strategic in what I wear and how I pack, like, a sweater or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but you
Well,
know how
no, I
hot
mean,
those expo halls get.
in and out, and then the weather pattern has just been just so crazy lately. I know here in the Midwest we had a nice amount of little snow and a pretty darn cold come in, and here it's February 14th. And happy Valentine's Day, by the way. I didn't even say happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, so
All my
happy
love to the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this the event kicks off, and it's in conjunction with it. And then you're right, I did also bring up the information in regards to the cannabis investment forum that's going to take place as well. So it looks like it's going to be a great weekend of activities. A lot specifically going on there in Vegas to celebrate that. And I think that whole investment side for the hemp and the cannabis industry is just so dynamic and interesting right now, Kim, because there's certain shifts that we're starting to witness, and people who are jumping into it, and it's still a very viable industry as far as the actual total. But I think in terms of the investors getting a lot more savvy, they're starting to understand a little bit more, and the dollars are a lot more difficult to come by. Where in past it was like, oh, you're in the cannabis industry, okay, great, here you go, you're in the hemp industry. And people are learning a lot from the past few years as far as being able to find a viable solution. So I recommend for our listeners, anyone that's considering jumping into this space, is do your homework, due diligence, understanding the dynamics of it, and that way it can be a lot of fun for you. And these events that are taking place here only help with that as well. So looks like it's going to be a fun weekend in Vegas, and then as well as the investor conference is going to be taking place.
Yeah, and I think something that's worthy of merit, uh, for people to consider, and that is, in this industry, it's still emerging, and really the people who um, we have the money. They're the ones who came out with the big brands and the strong push and all the support behind them. But then stuff happens in the industry that now we're starting to witness what money or access to money can hide for only so long.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that in like the big brands with Cushing, with the vape situation. You have their legal processing and illegal, and then with MedMen.
Right.
So
Right.
this all events, but I'm really looking forward to this one, obviously, um, because I'm looking forward to really getting that inside scoop from the people it really matters. My personal preference, because I like to break it down into two sides.
Hmm.
Either you have all this money and you come into it with an investment mindset, or you're the old school 420 cannabis friendly. Um, it's I'm in it for the plant and what the plant can do for communities and technology and whatnot. I'm on that side
Hmm.
personally.
Right.
Um,
Right.
there has to be a balance between them, but that's what people need to understand because they get so enamored with the medmen of the industry. And then when it crashes, they'd say, oh, well, we just expected this. It figures. And it shouldn't be like that. Go a little deeper.
Well, yeah, I think in part, like when you go to scale in this particular industry, and that was initially was the thought that bigger is better. And if you take a look at some of those larger corporations, those public companies, and take a look at the massive expansion that they did, not only here in the U.S. but also internationally, and you take a look at the amount of either operating requirements or expenditures, and you take a look at their gross sales line, and then you come to find out that for the rate of return for investors, they lost a significant amount of money, and people are questioning that. Wait a minute, you did that much in sales, you did that big of operations, but as what we're finding out, a lot of those initial public companies, they went out and purchased a lot of assets, a lot of future buildings for future hold. We're going to open up operations in this state, and MedMen is a perfect example of that, where they took that brick and mortar retail approach to this industry and trying to make it like a CVS or a Walgreens, something of that nature. And what happens is because there's so many new companies jumping into this space, it kind of there for a minute was kind of a race to the bottom. And what I mean by the race to the bottom is that who can produce cheaper, who can lower their labor costs and make it cost effective. I mean, let's face it. There's still the conscious buyer out there who's mindful of the price that is the entry price to purchase either CBD related products or cannabis related products, and that's what makes it so challenging. And we're already experiencing that a little bit, like in Oklahoma, for example, where we're seeing dispensaries who are shutting their doors. And hey, you know what? It was a lot of operating expense. I didn't make up for it after 1 year, after 2 years, like I thought I was going to. And so now I'm going to cut my losses and close the door. So that scaling is just so important to consider, as well as the vertical integration in terms of, hey, if I'm a farmer and I think that I'm going to sell to all these different companies that are manufacturing these goods. A lot of these companies are already either working directly with a partnership with a grower or an exclusive partnership, that those contracts are already in line. And here in my state of Indiana, we have some hemp farmers, for example, who've decided that they're not going to grow hemp this year because, last year they weren't able to sell it. They weren't able to move. I get contacted daily from, hey, I've got hemp flower, I've got hemp bud, I can sell it. I got CBD, I can do isolate. And, it's just understanding that dynamic. So right now, there's not a whole lot of brand loyalty out there taking place. So I think it's all about, relationships. It's about educating consumers. And the company that figures that out is going to be ahead in the long run. But the ideal of this mass production of this plant, and let's make it as big as possible, I think those ideas are kind of shot right now. And I think the savvy investors is taking a look more towards smart operations, people who know how to dot the I's, cross the T's, that they can execute, that they can deliver on their business plans and their commitments for that fiscal year. And those are the businesses that will be ahead in the long run, versus the concept of let's plan it, let's grow it, and let's hope for the best. That's not going to work in this industry moving forward.
Totally.
Yeah.
As Mamo would say, there's no need to gild the lily.
And let's jump real quickly. Let's jump into the February edition of Harvest and Plume. We'll jump there first. And I know that you're excited that you got that one published and got that released. And so I was excited to jump in there. So anything in particular that you'd like to share with that, the February edition with our listeners?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's still a housekeeping issue.
Oh, no, that's okay. Nope, you're good.
I had the website up and then took it down, and it's like one of those, okay, just God, if you could give me just 8 days, why didn't you put 8 days?
I have the link here brought up somewhere, and shame on me for not saving it. I probably closed out the window, but I had it when you first released it, and it came out. So it doesn't. Give me 1 second. I know that I'll be able to. Here we go. Is this it? Yep.
Yeah. Cannabis Sessions. Sure.
Okay, we'll start there first then.
So
there we go.
February is, if you go online and do any type of a search for February holidays, and that's going to tell you, like when you're celebrating hot dog and donut day and all those things. But aside from those things, February, I wanted to make sure that we celebrate three biggies, and that would be Black history, women's history, and marijuana awareness. And they're all for February. Marijuana is actually, it comes in for 2 times a month or 2 times a year. The other one, I believe, is November, I believe. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just gave information for next month. Well, next month, we're going to be talking about, why did the word just escape me?
That's okay. You're fine.
Healthcare providers. And anyway, so yeah, we talked about that. Back to focus, Kim. So I broke it down into, I don't think, in celebrating Black History Month, I wanted to make sure that I kept the focus within cannabis and hemp. And I don't think that people really realize how entwined African-American history is in America with hemp, and in knowing that they've had this deep relationship, first coming over as slaves and harvesting the hemp and processing and all that. And then eventually, which I find an interesting story, which is that story is actually in Harvest and Plume. But
okay, my bad.
No, it's okay. I'll tell you.
Go ahead. Yep.
As I wanted the magazines to link in that way, that you can go to Harvest and Plume and get this deeper information on Blacks and hemp. But eventually, that's when Hearst and, I can't even think of his name. I see it, but I can't say it. But anyway, the racism started coming out. And then how did they do it with the Marijuana Stamp Act? How many people know what the Marijuana Stamp Act is or what it did? Well, that paved the way for that they put taxes so high that doctors could no longer afford to prescribe cannabis. That was the beginning. And then the Spanish Revolution, or Mexican-Spanish War, was going on, forcing Mexican farmers up into the United States, and they're the ones who introduced smokable marijuana. And because of the Marijuana Stamp Act, then that was an easy way for people of color to relax and to medicate as well. So it's an interesting story to get into that. But anyway, back to the Cannabis Sessions. So introducing the importance of and respecting the lineage and relationship between Blacks and cannabis. And then the next article section of that is honoring the women who are in cannabis. And
awesome.
I left it open. I put it out on a couple of social media sites, pages, groups, and we ended up with 3 pages. Afterwards, I think people thought that it was like, I don't know, I'm going to steal names or hack or something. I don't know. But, you're kind of hesitant on giving it some of that information. And now I've gotten all the messages saying, oh, I wish I would have done it. I wish. So that's okay. Keep sending me your stuff, and I'll talk about it in both the magazines. The big thing is elevating the conversation surrounding the plant and all the opportunities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what I loved about the publication in regards to, and that's what there's so much conversation regarding the what's it called, these social implications or social contracts that they're doing to ensure that this space is viable for all people, that it's not going to be specialized just in major corporations who are out there to be able to raise this much money to jump into this. And I'm glad that certain states are doing those types of programs to help, especially if you take a look at the largest people who have been convicted of cannabis possession and everything else, and the racial disparity that's there. You can deny it all you want and say that it's not there, but it is. And to think that, okay, now we're going to have a legal market and we're not going to allow those people to have an opportunity to participate because license fees are so darn expensive, or we don't. And I know I subscribe to, one of the interesting things, I do subscribe to the actual state of Michigan. They're evolving. They just passed recreational, and they have an entire training program for businesses as well. So what they allow, they have certain training sessions to allow people to participate in, to go and learn about the industry and how they can participate. And I think that's when we truly win, is when we encompass that and we bring everybody into the conversation regarding hemp, regarding cannabis, and we see the industry grow together in that manner. So I want to fight hard to protect that. I don't want this industry to become like the Philip Morris of cannabis, or the larger corporations that take over this space. And so, yeah, so I think it's a very important conversation, and I'm glad your publication dedicated time to amplify that message.
Thank you.
And we have some people, we have some questions that have came in just a little bit. Like, one wants to know, is hot press resin the same or equivalent to RSO? I am not an expert on extraction. Primarily RSO and Rick Simpson oil was developed around, obviously a high THC component. So it really begins on what you are pressing, what type of extract that you are using. So your question probably primarily needs to begin your supplier, and are you testing whatever product, or if it's cannabis, are you getting that tested to know exactly? I'll give you a perfect example. We were working with a client, and they wanted to produce a CBD related item, and so they sent us a sample, a working sample, and said, "Hey, we're going to send this to you, and this is what we want to do with it. We just want to know how to do it." So when we sent the sample product away for testing, it actually came back and there was no CBD in it at all. It just was, whoever they bought the product for. So, and that's why you just got to be real careful in this industry. I've had hemp growers have contacted me and said, "Hey, we want to sell you our biomass, or we want to sell you our flower." And we're like, "Okay, great. Can you send me the COA, the testing?" "Well, we've never had it tested before." Well, you're not helping the conversation with having those things in place. So that's a great question. There's definitely some resources on how to get that information. And then also Golden Warrior has posted some comments in here in regards to CBD cream, some topical products that come in. One friend had tied 1,000 milligrams for carpal tunnel in the hand and no longer has carpal tunnel. That's pretty darn amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And the ones whack again, probably with cream is they come with menthol cooler heat effector. Well, and again, for different ailments, it's tough, whack, to paint with such a broad brush in regards to certain how CBD cannabidiol is used. And it's straight, Kim, we've had this conversation before, that we actually see the CBD world arguing with the THC world, and they're like, "No, don't do hemp because there's no." But if you take a look at some of the best practitioners, the people who are really studying this in Israel, for example, they are seeing certain medical conditions even do better with cannabidiol and increased amounts of CBD to help with certain conditions. And that's why that entire medical portion of it, in terms of the clinical research, the studies, is just so important. Everyone's bioavailability is going to be a little bit different on CBD and the way their body processes it. So what works for one particular person and one strength may not work for the other. One of the resources that I like to use for my research is and I have no affiliation with them at all, and it's called Project CBD. I'm gonna bring it up here real quick. Project CBD. Maybe that's not what it's called. because usually it comes up in my search. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So this is a great website. So if you're like, and again, I have no affiliation with this site. But if you're new to cannabidiol CBD, there's a great beginner's guide on how to begin using cannabis to help with certain conditions. And then on the drop down, they have information in regards to the science of CBD, and then also a lot of different medical conditions. And there's great articles that accompanies that on doing different research with CBD. So this is where, you know, when I'm involved in the cannabis, I'm sorry, in the autism section or certain medical conditions, I always have a tendency to refer people to this site. And why I do that, as much as, you know, I'm in the industry, and Kim, as much as I would love to say, hey, go buy my edibles or go do my vape, I have that professionalism that I don't feel that should be my primary focus, is selling products. The primary focus should be educating people about CBD, because again, there's so much people out there. I've been in certain chat rooms and had some people that would do the multi-level marketing company, and I'm not going to name any specific, you know, by names, where I had one person that told me, she was very aggressive, and she's like, you need to go join my CBD for Dummies Facebook page, because there are just certain things that you just don't understand. And, you know, she was also the one to say, well, you don't need THC. THC has no medical, you know, so you just have to be real careful where you know, get your information from in regards to CBD and the different products that are being made. And even to the scale that I think there are some people who are buying large amounts of cannabidiol, the 1,500 milligrams, that did not need that much. And it's been shown, if you take too much CBD, your neuroreceptors, the CBD receptors can actually build up a little bit of a tolerance to that. So it's just so important to understand the patient first, understand the person that's using it, what symptoms they're using it for. Like myself is a perfect example. I, knock on wood here, I don't have any like major health health conditions. May have a bum shoulder every now and then a knee. So I can get away with using cannabidiol CBD more as a supplement, as a nutritional supplement, like you would a vitamin A, vitamin D, something of that nature. So it doesn't make any sense for me to go out and buy 1,000 milligram CBD oil and waste all that money when it's something that I don't need. Now, in saying that, some people do need that. And I think that companies that are reputable, the companies are going to look out for the customer and their best interest, are going to work with them on a customized approach based upon that individual, not a sales technique, not which products I'm trying to push out the door. That's just so important for this industry, Kim. And I know I went on a long way. I went on a long time about that.
No, I totally agree with everything that you said. And it's funny that you're talking about that. Two different topics, and they came into both of them. I can't say the name right now, but I'm talking to an entrepreneur and an investor, excuse me, who they've come up with something that instead of testing the plant, they're going to test the person to see what, your cannabinoid system is super low in this area, and this is how you can improve. Because remember, cannabis really, and all the cannabinoids, excuse me, is about bringing the body to homeostasis. You know, the whole plant health is going to bring you to that point of homeostasis. Now, when you have issues, with severe pain, ouch, it hurts. You have those specific issues of, say, nausea or schizophrenia, or things that we know we can pinpoint to say, yes, this goes specifically to CBG, THC, any of that. And by the way, this is another one I'm so excited about. I Not that I'm the healthiest person in the world, but I don't have any health issues, at least not that I know of. But my husband does have a pain issue, and I am so excited because he's going to be trying this. It's called a CBGA crumble, and it's like a dab.
Yep.
And I'm so excited to find out how does that work for the pain. Because just recently I had someone else saying, I had this horrible migraine chiropractic, aspirin, nothing's working. What's going on? And I'm like, oh God, I really wish I could do something about the CBGA crumble.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
looking forward to talking about that and people not focusing on the THC or euphoria aspect of it, but that all these components are about healing your body through the ECS.
Absolutely. And I think that more and more, and I want to make sure everyone's clear, I've had some training in regards to the healer program. There's certain medical programs that you can go through as far as the training. There's every state has them. There's even some universities that are doing that. And I think, Kim, what you said is just so important in terms of understanding the individual. And what I'm excited about is because I'm seeing more and more people start to understand whole body health as it relates to everything from the food that you're eating to your diet, your exercise. And unfortunately, too many people are looking for that quick fix through big pharma that, hey, I've got this ailment. I mean, I can't tell you how many times it'd be interesting to see how many times that someone goes to the doctor and walks out with a prescription that maybe it's something that they truly don't need versus the doctors who are so time starved and pressured for time and billing and everything that are making the patient, hey, instead of taking the time to really assess things, what you said, proper testing, understanding their blood levels of certain, missing certain nutritions, something like taking a look at their diet intake, their rest, to really focus on the individual. But I'm seeing more and more people focus on that, especially in the mental health aspect, as that relates to, we see so many people with either the opioid crisis or things that are taking place with our youth who unfortunately are becoming so overprescribed with either attention deficit disorders or depression, of these stages of truly understanding what's taken place. And so I think that customized health approach to looking at the individual, that's the direction that I think that is the proper way. And if people can ask me and say, well, Carlos or CJ, why do you feel that way? Well, you take a look, and like, we as a society, the United States spends more per capita on health than any other country, but yet we have one of the worst as terms of health outcomes.
Yeah.
You take a look at life expectancy, and the fact that life expectancy in the United States has decreased the past 3 or 4 years. And people want to make excuses. They want to attribute, hey, well, it's because of the opioid addiction. It's because of this. And we always are, so quick to make the decision versus looking at some of these real figures, these real statistics in regards to what's happening with the health of our country. And that's what I'm excited about with hemp, with cannabis, that it's going to play a viable role of returning to more natural health and people finding ways of healing themselves without some of those harsh chemicals and things.
Exactly. And I know we're going over time, but one of these podcasts, we're going to have Mike Robinson, and he and I in Harvest and Plume, I'm including his articles about the Carousel Challenge and his daughter Genevieve, who has severe autism, status ellipticus, epilepsy, and OCD. And this is so interesting that he consults a lot of people because he's epileptic as well. And he found that doctors, they don't know because they're trained by the pharmaceutical industry, and they just tick off boxes. Oh, your kid has epilepsy. Oh, your kid has behavioral issues. Well, he found that when autistic kids are oftentimes given behavioral drugs along with epileptic or another drug, I'm sorry, and it kicks in epilepsy. It actually causes it. So it's amazing the information that he comes out, and I'm so infantile in the information. You can't help but just sit there and either read or listen to the information because it's so overwhelmingly powerful. And knowing that we need to understand why and how we're being prescribed, and then we can get into the whole big pharma
absolutely
conspiracy thing. But
absolutely. Kim, do me a favor, go ahead and plug your websites, plug the event one more time for our listeners. Anyone that's going to be close or lives in the Vegas or California area, they can make it there to check out these events. Why don't you go ahead and share that for one more time for our listeners, please?
Absolutely. The USA CBD Expo is going on right now, and the last day is on the 15th, so that's tomorrow. And after that is a private event for demo days, and these are the entrepreneurs who are presenting their businesses to investors. And then after that is a culinary cannabis celebrity event, lots of networking with insiders and bigwigs, and that's just all fun stuff. uh, the social media, Harvest at Harvest and Plume, or at it could be the Canna Sessions on
Yeah.
Facebook. On Facebook, it's the Canna Sessions. On Instagram, it's the Cannabis Sessions, and Twitter is the Canna Sesh One.
Absolutely. Yeah. So go check out those publications. Please also, if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels as well as share this podcast. And for all your information, not only can you get the publications that Kim produces monthly, but also do me a favor and go over to rogue420.net where you can find lots of great information in regards to the industry, everything from advocacy to cannabis news to industry news, hemp, as well as investment information as well. So, Kim, thank you so much for your time today. It was a lot of fun, and we will be back next week.
Next week, lots of news.
All right, take care, Kim. Thank you. Good luck this
Bye.
weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks.